Alright, we got our receiver back from the heat treaters, and it doesn't look too pretty right now, but that's to be expected after what the poor thing's been through. But basically, I'm all done. They did a little polishing there for some reason, probably where they did their hardness test or whatever. But all the pits and everything are gone, so it looks good now. Look, they got it up to a 59 Rockwell, so the specifications call for 59 to 65, so it's within specs. You can't really see any details at this point. It's I can get in there and maybe see that serial number, but I don't think you can even see that. It looks so crappy. Yeah, it's not at all. Doesn't look pretty at all, but that's alright. Once I sandblast it, it'll be just fine. The next step now is to put the barrel on. I sandblast it, put the barrel on it. Got the op rod back too. They hardened that up to a 46. So once again, I was able to get all the pits and everything out of that. That came out really nice. I had a little bit of tiny weld added to one little spot, but that all filed out nice. So I'm going to go ahead and sandblast everything, and I'm going to fit the barrel on, and I'll keep you posted as I move along. I just wanted to show what that op rod looks like. We all saw the before, but we didn't see the after. So this is once again, with some file work. I don't know if you remember how pitted it was, but once again we lost all the machining marks, unfortunately, but that's alright. But overall, I'm happy. It looks good. No issues anymore. Just need to sandblast it. I just bead blasted it to give it a softer finish so we could kind of see how it's looking. The backside I wasn't too worried about. But everything came out really, really good. Looks nice. So should be good to go on that one. I'm just going to assemble the rifle and test fire it before I go any further. Make sure everything's looking good. But I'm happy with that. I just thought you might like to see it. This op rod was in pretty rough shape before we started, but I'd say she's quite salvageable now. Looking quite good now. So anyway, we'll get back at you. Alright, we're ready. We're going to finally parkerize this Garand that I've been doing all the filing on. I just want to show you inside the sandblast cabinet. You can see the barrel and the receiver there. And everything's been sandblasted, so everything, I don't want to touch it with my hands, but everything's been sandblasted, so it's all the various parts. I've got a bunch of the parts already strung up on sticks with little wires. Just got to make sure they don't touch each other. So I've got about 4 sticks with wires on there, so that's plenty for the first batch. My tank is only so big. So I'm going to go ahead and blow them off and put them in the rinse tank and let them rinse for a minute or two before they go in the parkerizing. So I'll get back to you. Alright, I've blown the dust off of these so they're nice and clean. Now I'm just going to take them over to the rinse tank. I've got a bottom fed overflowing rinse tank. Just drop them in there for minute or two. I always like to move them around, make sure that all the parts take the water. Sometimes you get an air bubble on a part, and if you don't notice it right away, it presents a problem. So I just dunk them a bit and make sure that they all get nice and wet. Let that soak in there for a minute or two, and then it's going to go into the parkerizing. I'm just going to take the lid off that tank, and I got about 4 sticks worth of parts to put in there, so I'll be right back. So everything's been rinsing now for a couple of minutes. You can see the various parts that are in there. All Garand parts. I've got a few extra parts in there from other projects and just a couple of spare parts that I'm doing at the same time. But you can see, so they've been in there now for a couple, 2-3 minutes. I'll go ahead and pull them out and get them in the parkerizing. And we've all seen this done, but anyway, you might like to enjoy it, maybe even following this project from day one. So these will come out. I'll put them in here for about 15 minutes. I use Parkerizing, which is what Colt used in World War II. You can still buy it. So that's what I use. And the processing time is 15 minutes. So there, I'm just going to put them in there. And you got to keep your eye on them. And I keep my tanks pretty clean, but you develop a lot of sediment. Get a lot of sediment in the bottom of the tank. You can kind of see it here a little bit. And let me just shut this water off. It's a little bit noisy. Shut my rinse tank off. There. So anyway, like I was saying, you got to move them around a little bit, because sometimes a little bit of debris from the bottom of your tank, because this stuff generates debris, sludge like you can't believe. Within minutes you're getting sludge. So you can already see they're coming out a nice dark. Parkerizing's a really nice dark gray, almost black. On some parts it'll be black. Just make sure that the parts aren't touching each other. In a few minutes the solution will clear up a little bit. It won't be so violent. And then I can see the actual parts and make sure they're not touching anything. When it's this cloudy, it's hard to see, but you can see how nice and dark everything's coming out. So that's the one thing I love about Parkerizing. And it's the real deal. It's what they use, so why not use it if it's still available? Anyway, I'll let these run for about 15 minutes, and I'll let you see the finished products. Alright, so 5 or so minutes gone by. We're just going to check on our soup, see when lunch will be ready. But I just wanted to show you. You can see it a little bit, see how the parts are starting to get a little tiny bit of coating on them. You can see now that the murkiness of the water is improving. The major fizzing is done with now, so things are calming down. But you can see how there's a little bit of, if I can get a good shot there, you can see a little bit of sediment on top of the parts. So every few minutes I just do a little shaky shake and they're ready to roll. When it's hot, that stuff will bake right on there and you won't get it off. So just make sure that you get that off. It's looking good. Alright, so I'll get back to you in a few more minutes. Alright, 15 minutes are up. Let's see how our parts look. Once again, they got a little bit of sediment on them, so I'm just going to shake them a little bit, get that stuff off while it's fresh and comes off easy. And then I'm going to move this stuff right into the rinse tank. Got my nice rinse tank, get everything neutralized, get everything rinsed off. Everything's nice, beautiful, nice, rich, dark. Some parts will be almost black. Some parts will be, medium to dark gray. Depends on the alloy content, how hard the metal is. I like the look of the manganese phosphate better than the zinc phosphate. Zinc's a little bit light. But it's still original. A lot of stuff was done in zinc phosphate, so there we go. So you can see everything looks good. Can't really see it, lighting's not the greatest right here, but you can see they all look good. Everything came out nice. You see how much lighter that trap door is on that butt plate there compared to the sling swivel right beside it. Different alloy content. So, and this is the way it'll be, but that's fine. It's totally proper. We'll just let them rinse for, 3 minutes or so. Let it neutralize all that phosphoric acid. I'll recheck my tank, bring my tank back up to level. I do a chemical test every time I fire up the tank. So this morning I already did a chemical test for purity and strength. I buy all the testing chemicals right from the factory. I've been trained on how to do them. So that means that every job will be mil spec. There's no guessing here. There's no ground up flashlight batteries and Home Depot driveway cleaner mixed together. This is the real stuff. So I want a perfect job every time. So anyway, let me get these parts done and I'll get back to you. Alright, so here's the first pieces right out of the rinse tank. They're still wet. I'm going to be blowing them off. I just wanted you to see. Nice and rich and dark. Everything's even. No splotchiness, no nothing. This is what it'll look like when it's got oil on it. Water and oil will make the piece look the same. It'll be as dark as what it's going to be, so it's going to look real good. So I'm just going to blow these parts off and start setting all the parts aside, and then I'm going to hit them with WD-40. More on that later. Alright, so here's our 20 pieces. Like I said, I did 4 sticks of parts with 5 pieces on each stick. That's plenty to handle at one time. So here they are. They're rinsed. I haven't oiled them yet, but I just wanted you to have a look at them. They all turn out nice. Use the right stuff and you get the right results. Like I say, I use Parker Lube Right. I've had good luck with it all these years. I've used it for many years. This is kind of neat how pieces that have brass on them, the brass won't take the parkerizing. So, but that's how they, were when they were brand new. You can see on the inside there how they just, all the brass just stands right out. But it looks kind of cool. I like the looks of that. But anyway, this batch is beautiful. I'm not going to oil anything until I get get everything back from out of the parkerizing. That was at National Match Front site that was on that Garand. Can't get it to focus right now, but anyway, I will get some more parts done. Once I get everything done, then I'll get back to you and show you how everything turned out. But I'm liking the results so far. Anyway, stay tuned. I couldn't resist just showing this last piece. We all know what this piece is. That's the one I've been waiting to see. I already know what it's going to look like, but I just think it's always kind of neat the way it all fizzes up like that. Calms down after a few minutes, but it shows you that it's working. So it's the last piece, so about 10 minutes we'll pull this out, oil it down, and you get to see all the different parts. Once I get it assembled, I'll show you that. Alright. So everything's been parkerized, everything's been oiled. I use WD-40. It's nice and thin. It gets in all the nooks and crannies and all the pores of the metal and inside Parkerizing. Parkerizing is a bunch of interlocking crystals. So that initial oiling is kind of nice because it runs down and gets trapped in all those little nooks and crannies in the interlocking crystals and gives it that corrosion resistance. So that's why I use WD-40 for the initial one anyway. You know what I mean? You can already see how slow, move a little bit slow. You can see that nice set. You can see how nice that receiver is going to look. No pitting, no nothing. Once I get it all assembled, I'm going to give you a quick view and see if all our effort was worthwhile. Okay, so I'll be back shortly. So everything's been parkerized, everything's been oiled. I use WD-40. It's nice and thin. It gets in all the nooks and crannies and all the pores of the metal and inside Parkerizing. Parkerizing is a bunch of interlocking crystals. So that initial oiling is kind of nice because it runs down and gets trapped in all those little nooks and crannies in the interlocking crystals and gives it that corrosion resistance. So that's why I use WD-40 for the initial one anyway. You know what I mean? You can already see how slow, move a little bit slow. You can see that nice set. You can see how nice that receiver is going to look. No pitting, no nothing. Once I get it all assembled, I'm going to give you a quick view and see if all our effort was worthwhile. Okay, so I'll be back shortly.